Hey folks, BlackCross here, and today we had ourselves another discussion video. With this one, we hadn't really gotten very much information regarding Kingdom Hearts 3 or the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But, what I have today, I want to do a few little, kind of brief little ideals of the images that we've got today, and then talk over them. So, with that being in mind, let's get started with the official discussion. So the latest news that we've actually gotten a total of 3 different images straightly from the games themselves. 1 new Kingdom Hearts 3 image, and 2 new images from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So what I'm going to show you the image itself, and then we're going to talk about the image in the priority. But these images came strictly from the, if I can pronounce this right, Monaco Anime Game International Conference 2017. And basically, the image are of this right here. This one being the Kingdom Hearts 3. And basically, with this image right here, this one basically literally just blew me out of the water. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that we finally have a new, and by new, I mean a clear image. And from this image alone, there is a lot going on. So, that's why I wanted to go ahead and talk about this image and kind of get like a really bigger description going on as to figure out like what we're seeing. So, when Nomura showed this image right here, basically he said that the entire environment itself is actually taking place in Phoebus. Now, if you don't know what Phoebus is basically the area that Hercules goes to within the Hercules movie. So, in other words, this is taking place in the Olympic Coliseum world. But, from this image alone, because basically what we know from previous details, we know Olympic Coliseum is a confirmed world. In fact, we know for a fact, if you played Kingdom Hearts 0.2, A Fragmentary Passage, you already know that Sora and them are heading to Hercules World within the first instant. So in other words, this is taking place literally at the very beginning of the game. And just from the two information we've gotten, from where it was taking place at like Mount Olympus, and then later on that year we found out it's also taking place in the Olympian heaven itself. So within that process of analyzation, we know the worlds themselves are going to be relatively big. But we don't know exactly as to like what all is going to be consisted of. And with this image right here, it basically tells me right now each individual world within Kingdom Hearts, each world, it's going to be about, in terms of structure scaling, I say it's about like probably about a good 3 times bigger than any other Kingdom Hearts world we have seen in quite a while. Like, the biggest world, because Dream Drop Distance kind of showed us how massive of a world it can be. And thanks with the flow motion ability, you're able to actually scale up buildings in order to get to, like, different treasure chests that are scattered throughout the entire area. So with that, it basically tells me that the world that we know so far, in terms of current Kingdom Hearts games, Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be a lot bigger. It's going to be at least 2 times, if not 3 times bigger in terms of scaling. And especially when you consider the fact that they're trying to make the world more open world type feel. So they're not going to be true open world, but the ideal concept of an open map, just like how it was in Kingdom Hearts 0.2, that tells me a lot of how just massive they're gonna be. They're gonna be pretty huge. And the second thing from this image right here is that we actually get to see a little bit of Sora's power, which is basically the guard form. For those of you that don't know, this image was revealed to us actually last year, along with another form, and I want to say that form was, I think that one is like the power form or something. I'm not quite sure. The only thing that we know from that image is that he's holding like a lightning bolt hammer or axe or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But from this form alone, we can see Sora is wielding the guard form and preparing for a heavy attack. And that's really cool in concept. But another big, and this is by far the biggest one that I'm excited for, is the Heartless design itself. Basically, the design of this Heartless right here, what we got from so far that we have seen, and some people have actually analyzed it, the lock-on reticle is actually on the Heartless face itself. And the HP bar isn't really that big. However, though, a lot of people are saying that the sword he's wielding, because it actually has like a Heartless symbol on the top of his head, as you can kind of see right there, basically, this is going to be like the main boss head itself. Not the small head that we see, but the big head itself. And someone tells me we're actually going to be like destroying pieces of it all throughout the entire battle of it. And just for it being a still image, we do actually get a lot of detailing. And I get so excited whenever I see this image. I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be good. I'm looking at it and I'm drooling. Cause see, one thing that I wanted most whenever Kingdom Hearts 3 was confirmed to be in development was that I was hoping that they would go back into bigger detailing of the Heartless designs themselves. And in 0.2, we did actually see a brief idealization of Heartless designs. They may not have been like unique designs, but they were pretty interesting designs to kind of let us know that, hey, this is kind of like what we had come up with. And I'm hoping that they'll release more image of like different assortments of Heartless, including the bosses. I want more Heartless bosses, because in Kingdom Hearts 1, they were fantastic. Kingdom Hearts 2, there was a couple of them that was actually really good, but the rest of them was kind of like meh. But this time around, it looks like they're really getting back on track, and they're finally getting great ideals coming out. So, just from this image alone, we actually did get a lot of. So I'm really glad for that. The next two images that we've got right here is actually of the Final Fantasy VII Remake that they are currently working on right now. And right now, the information that we have, we don't really know when they're going to be releasing the first episode of it. But, just by what we've got here right now, I will say this much. Before they actually confirmed it, and by confirm, I mean back at E3 of, well, what year was it? 2015? 2014? I honestly don't remember. I know it was relatively far back now. And originally I was kind of like, you know what? They're not gonna make it. There's no way. They wouldn't keep us this far into the dark if they were really working on it. Like, seriously, this is ridiculous. I just gave up on the idea that they were gonna work on a Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then at E3, they finally confirmed it. I was like, I just gave up on it, and ya brought it back to life. Fuck you guys. And the latest trailer that we had from it, about a year or two ago, it really wasn't like that spectacular. It mostly discussed mostly of like the introduction scenery of Final Fantasy VII. We got to see a little bit of gameplay mechanic, but there wasn't really much to kind of work on. But these two images right here, they basically tell me a lot more than any of the trailers that I've seen so far, and I've only seen like one. So, Square Enix, if you're gonna release this soon, you might want to release another trailer just to kind of get me even more hyped. But these two images right here are actually getting hyped up on their own. And the first image is basically this of Cloud. Looks like he's basically hiding behind a box in order to avoid enemy attacks from the Shinra soldiers. And this alone, because see, here's the thing. The menu commands that you see right now, as of that image, they're not confirmed item reticules. They're just there in order to display the gameplay itself. So in other words, those might change within time, but from what I can see right now, we can see quite a bit going on, and in terms of like gameplay mechanic, because see, here's what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing the gameplay mechanics of Kingdom Hearts being played into this remake, and that's very exciting for me right now. That's I'm just very excited for that part, because, see, a couple of years ago, or maybe it was a year ago, I don't even remember, it just seems like it's been a long time since that happened, but there was recent news going on that the team working on Kingdom Hearts 3 was helping the team working on Final Fantasy VII. So, with that being said, they were trying to come up with, like, a gameplay mechanic that would work in favor for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Because keep this in mind, this is a remake. This is not the original game being released in a bigger graphic form. No, it's a remake. In other words, everything's being redone. Somewhat of the story, and then a lot being in gameplay form. So, this gameplay alone has definitely got me excited to see the actual gameplay itself, and I really, really would like to see a full-on, like, gameplay trailer. Like, I want to see, like, the full battle itself. And for some Final Fantasy fans out there, do a little retrospective. Do, like, either the introduction of Final Fantasy VII with the bomb mission and everything, because that right there would definitely get the crowd's attention. It's just being able to get that introduction, because we know how technically it starts. It starts with Cloud being on the train, getting off of the train at the train station, and getting ready to bomb the Mako reactor. And basically, that right there is just basically right within the beginning intro, where he's sneaking around behind the boxes and stuff to avoid heavy ammo firing. The next image, though, gives us a little bit more detail, but at the same time, not much to go on. But I think we can kind of see what's really going on with the image. And again, I'm just going to show you the bigger image, and then we're going to analyze it together. This bigger image is basically the image, the boss fight itself, of the Scorpion boss. And for those of you that don't know, the Scorpion boss was a pretty big deal, because it was the first official boss that we fought in Final Fantasy VII. And while to some degree it may not be as big as what it was whenever Final Fantasy VII came out, which obviously there would be some, like, differentiation between the original and to the remake. But just from what we're seeing right now, we can clearly see that we see both Barret and Cloud fighting in the same field. We can also see within, again, we don't even know if this is confirmed or not, but from what we can see right now, we do see, like, a normal HP bar, we see their MP, and then we see their limit drive form. But another thing that we see a combination of, like, two different button commands. The first button command that we actually see is actually a triangle button heading over between two parts. We see it over Cloud's item ready, Cloud's particular stat box, and then we see the triangle over its HP bar. So what we're seeing right now, we're seeing that the player is actually playing as Barret. So that part is confirmed, that you get to play as other characters and not just Cloud, which would make sense. But I think what it's trying to tell us is that we can switch in between characters in mid-battle. So, like, for one moment you'll be playing as Barret, and then the next moment you can switch over to, like, Cloud, the next moment you can switch over to Tifa. Just whatever is in your current party right now, you can switch mid-combat. And this one is really good. However, though, there is one problem that I have, and that is what's going on within the boss fight. Because we can clearly see two health bars. We see the main health bar above the Scorpion boss fight. And I'm guessing that's the main boss health bar. But then we got another health bar, which is actually right within, like, its legging area, right above where the reticule is. And it's like, what is that? Is that, like, the freaking HP bar for a part of its body? And if that's the case, that means that the boss itself has multiple parts of HP. So we got the main boss itself, and then the individual legs has its own HP bar. Where if we destroy the legs, the Scorpio will be basically out of commission for a temporal state, I'd probably say, until the leg is rebuilt or something like that. And basically, you have a moment of where you're able to do, like, constant damage to it, and basically do, like, critical blows. And it's the combat is definitely there. The combat ideal, the structure and everything, it's definitely got me excited. And then we can also see within the floor as well, where he's going to be shooting his missiles. So in other words, the game is also encouraging the ideal of mobile ability and to avoid enemy attacks. So originally, where I wasn't on the train wagon for hype for this game, I am then, after these images alone, I'm back on it. And that's what you really need to do, Square, is to get people encouraged to the ideal that Final Fantasy VII Remake is actually doing good. Because from whenever people first heard these information, from the first one being the fact that the combat's going to be different, and then the second fact where basically it's going to be completely different to some degree, you've had people discouraged. And by that discouragement, it's not exactly good for business. But when you introduce ideal mechanics, when you show them the entire scenery of the battle, just a piece like this, it's got me involved. And then I'm sure a couple of people, probably a good handful of people, and by handful, probably a good couple hundred, who originally didn't like what you were going with this, are probably getting back to the idea of, this looks really good actually. That's good. You need to keep that up. Because if this game is supposed to be released this year, now again, there's no official confirmation from them saying that it will be. In fact, this past January, whenever they did their live event, they said that Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't really quite done for release yet. So in other words, they're still working on it, they're still trying to debug it and stuff like that. They're still trying to do some final touches to it. But before it even gets ready to be released, Square, you need to release a full-on video of the beginning settings or an entire battlefront. You need to do that in order to convince your audience. You don't need a whole character designs or story layout and stuff like that. We already know this. This is a game that's been previously released to us. We already know the story. We know there's going to be small changes, and instead of spoiling those small changes, instead give us the ideal structure. Give us a video of the entire combat. And I guarantee you, the audience of Final Fantasy VII who weren't on board with this will be back on board immediately after you show that video. You need to do something like that really soon. And if nothing else, do it a month before the game's release. Because believe me whenever I say this, if you're still going to do it episodically, you're going to need to release it as soon as possible. In other words, ASAP, immediately. Or for all I know, maybe they're waiting until after E3, and E3 is going to be their big display thing, of where they're going to basically say, well, we've been working on Final Fantasy VII Remake, here's a brief trailer. And they're going to show a trailer, they're going to go in-depth with combat, they're going to go in-depth with the story and stuff like that, and then, boom, show the release date for the first part. And again, hearing from what some people have said, they believe that these individual parts are going to be based on the disc itself. So in other words, part 1 is going to be disc 1, part 2 is going to be disc 2, and part 3 is going to be disc 3, which would make sense, but at the same time, I don't know, because they said they want to do more character development. They want to go in depth and a little bit deeper within each character, and make them feel more fleshed out. And that may end up taking multiple parts, but as to how many parts, we don't know. I think just within these two images alone, it's convinced me to say that Square Enix is right back to the ideal concept of Final Fantasy. They're back to the concept of the combat, and they know what's going to be a people pleaser, and they know what some people aren't really excited for. And for some people, they're not excited for the combat being action-oriented. They wanted a turn-based system. But honestly, I'm good. I personally like action RPGs. Those are my personal favorite. That's the reason why I love Kingdom Hearts. And this right here, these images are just right now overflowing with the ideal concept that this is going in the right direction. But that was basically it. That was all I wanted to talk about, because just within what we've got right now, I'm definitely hoping that these two images are a sign that we're going to see a really good information coming from E3. Because here's the thing, we're at the end of February. March is coming up, and then it won't be long before we'll be through April and May. And if you know, E3 comes out in June. So by then, people will already be giving out information to like other games, the potential trailers and stuff like that. And the biggest thing that I personally want to know throughout this entire year is Final Fantasy VII Remake and Kingdom Hearts 3. Those are my two biggest concerns as of right now. Because, just, here's the thing, they're still in development currently right now. And we don't even have an ideal open window as to, like, when they're going to be released. People say, oh, it's being delayed, it's being delayed. You can't say it's been delayed if they haven't had a release date. If they had no release date, it's technically not delayed, because we don't even know when it's supposed to come out to begin with. So I'm hoping that E3, we have like a small window. And by small window, I mean like an actual year. Not just so much like date or anything like that. I want a year. I want a year to kind of tell me when it's going to be coming out. If Final Fantasy VII or Kingdom Hearts 3 is supposed to be coming out 2017, say 2017. If it's supposed to be 2018, say 2018. You don't necessarily have to say the date precisely. You just have to say the year. And then a lot of us can be like, okay, no problem. That's all I needed. And I guarantee you a lot of us just want that. But then again, some people will be like, well, if it's 2017, I kind of want to know the date as well. So do I, but here's the thing. We've had games that has 2017, but they never came out precisely of the date that they were stated. They got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. Just saying the year until like a month before they officially come out, I think I can deal with that. Whereas saying the whole date itself, there is potential that it could get pushed back. So just say the year, and then a month before you say, okay, we're going to release it, then release a new trailer that basically says the whole date. And that's a good idea, because then you're given a window opportunity for gamers to get prepped up and ready for that game itself. And I just think that's a good idea. You know, personally to me, I think that's a better strategy when dealing with releases, because there are multiple releases out there that have been pushed back so far this year. And by multiple, a lot of people know what I'm talking about. But anyway though, that's all I wanted to talk about for this one. Let me know in the comments below what you think. What did you think when you saw these? And let me know what you feel towards Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy VII Remake. But until then, this is BlackCross signing off. Take care, guys.